Get this filthy creature off my floor.
500 guests, crystal chandeliers, a barefoot black girl on white marble, bleeding from both knees where security had dragged her.
Mr. Ashton, please. Someone here is trying to kill you.
Gregory Ashton laughed. The whole room laughed.
Buy yourself some shoes and some dignity. That's more than you're worth.
He dropped a $100 bill onto her blood. She didn't flinch, just looked him in the eyes and whispered 5 words.
You're going to wish you listened.
2 hours later, that same CEO was crawling through a pitch-black basement, clinging to her shoulder, begging her to keep him alive. And the door she opened next broke him worse than any poison ever could. Yeah, he should have listened the first time. Let's see what happens. The 40th floor of the Ashton Sterling building glowed like a palace in the Manhattan sky. 500 of the most powerful people in American finance filled the grand ballroom. Senators, hedge fund managers, media moguls. A jazz quartet played in the corner. Waiters in white gloves carried trays of Krug Grande Cuvée. The air smelled like expensive cologne and ambition. Tonight was the 30th anniversary of Ashton Sterling Group, and every soul in that room had come to worship one man. Gregory Ashton. 58 years old, self-made, the kind of CEO whose handshake could raise a stock price and whose silence could sink a career. Silver hair, charcoal Brioni suit, a glass of Chateau Margaux 1995 in his right hand, the only bottle he ever drank from at events. Everyone knew it, part of the legend. But legends are built by more than one person. Standing 3 feet behind Gregory, exactly where he had stood for 30 years, was Victor Caldwell, vice president, co-founder, best friend since childhood. South Boston, 1994. 2 broke kids in a 1-bedroom apartment with no heat. Gregory worked the docks. Victor drove a delivery truck. They pooled every dollar, made a pact. Build something together, never look back. They kept half that promise. Gregory became the face. Victor became the shadow. Every magazine cover, every award, every standing ovation. Gregory. Victor stood behind him and clapped. For 30 years he clapped. Tonight, Victor raised his glass. To 30 years of trust. The room erupted. Gregory put his arm around him. This man is the only person I'd trust with my life, Victor smiled. But if anyone had looked closely, they would have noticed the smile never reached his eyes. On his left wrist, a silver cufflink caught the light, Gregory's gift the day they founded the company. Victor touched it the way a man touches a weapon he's already decided to use. 3 years of planning, 12 shell companies across Cayman Islands, Panama, Cyprus, $340 million siphoned from Ashton Sterling into accounts bearing Gregory's forged signature. When the time came, the FBI would find the trail and conclude Gregory had been laundering money through his own empire. But that was only phase 2. Phase 3 was crueler. Sodium fluoroacetate, a colorless poison dissolved into the Chateau Margaux 1995. Victor had done it himself 3 hours before the gala, alone in the wine cellar. Steady hands, no hesitation. Wearing the cufflink his best friend gave him, 30 miles east, in a cramped Brooklyn studio, a woman sat cross-legged on bare wood floor. No shoes, no furniture worth mentioning. Just a cracked laptop covered in stickers and 3 monitors showing data streams that would make most cybersecurity firms weep. Brianna Wallace, 28, black, barefoot. Not from poverty, but from habit, born in rural Alabama, where her mother, a community nurse, taught her to feel the ground before trusting anything above it. Her father, an IT engineer, died at 42. He left her a silver necklace shaped like a lock and one sentence. Every locked door is just a question nobody's answered yet. At 23, she joined the NSA's most classified cyber unit. At 25, she cracked Operation Black Veil, a cyber attack that nearly collapsed the national banking system. They offered a commendation. She turned it down. At 26, she quit. The system wasn't good enough for her. 2 weeks ago, running a routine audit for a small Queens bank, she stumbled onto a river of money. $340 million bleeding out of Ashton Sterling through ghost companies. She pulled the thread, found encrypted messages, found the kill order. She had spent 14 nights sneaking into the Ashton Sterling building through a maintenance entrance, mapping every corridor, every camera blind spot. In sub-basement B2, an abandoned technical room no one had touched in years, she built her war room. 3 salvaged monitors, every piece of evidence is organized and ready. She had sent preliminary findings to FBI Special Agent Howard Sullivan, a former NSA colleague. Sullivan believed her, but belief wasn't a warrant. He needed more. Tonight, she would get him more. Or Gregory Ashton would die. Her screen flickered. A freshly intercepted message. Phase 3 activated. Tonight. Brianna grabbed her backpack. ran 3 blocks to a 24-hour pharmacy, bought 2 vials of calcium gluconate, the antidote, stuffed them next to her father's necklace. She hit the street, Brooklyn to Manhattan. No subway, no shoes, just a cracked laptop and the knowledge that a man who didn't know her name had less than 2 hours to live. She arrived at 9:16 p.m., 40 floors of glass and steel towering above her. Through the lobby windows, she could see the golden glow of the gala far above, a world she was never meant to enter. Brianna pushed through the revolving door, bare feet on cold marble, sweat-soaked hoodie, torn jeans, a backpack hanging off one shoulder. Every head in the lobby turned. The security desk reacted before she took 5 steps. "Ma'am, stop right there." Dennis Crawford, head of security, stepped in front of her with both palms raised. 6'2", 240, a face that had never once second-guessed an order. "This is a private event. I need to speak to Gregory Ashton, right now. It's an emergency." "I'm sure it is." Dennis looked her up and down, the bare feet, the hoodie, the cracked laptop poking out of her bag. "You need to leave." "You don't understand. Someone in this building is going to—" "I said leave." 2 more guards flanked her. Brianna didn't move. She couldn't. The man, 40 floors above her, had less than 90 minutes of blood left. Every second she stood here arguing was a second closer to cardiac arrest. The commotion carried. Guests near the elevator bank turned to look. Whispers crawled across the room like smoke. And then, cutting through the murmur like a blade, came the voice. "What's going on here?" Gregory Ashton stepped out of the elevator, Chateau Margaux in hand, 2 assistants trailing behind him like satellites. He was heading to the private terrace for a phone call when the noise caught his ear. He looked at Brianna, took his time. Feet first, bare, dusty, a thin line of blood on one toe from running on concrete. Then the jeans, the hoodie, the wild hair. He let the silence do its work, let every guest watch him measure her against the room she stood in. Then he smiled. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, turning to the gathering crowd, "it seems we have entertainment I didn't plan for." Laughter. Scattered at first, then louder. Someone near the bar clapped. Brianna ignored it. "Mr. Ashton, someone in this room is going to—" "Going to what?" He took a step closer. "Save me? Enlighten me?" He tilted his head. "You can barely save yourself. Look at you. Please, just 5 minutes. Your life is in— Get this off my floor." Dennis grabbed her left arm. A second guard grabbed her right. Brianna tried to pull free, not to fight, just to speak, just to finish one sentence. But they were already moving. Her knees hit the marble. The drag was fast, efficient, practiced. They had done this before. The sound was what stayed with people. Not the shouting, not the laughter. The sound of skins scraping across polished stone. A raw, grinding whisper that cut under the jazz music and the champagne chatter and made a few guests look away. Not Gregory. Gregory watched every inch. At the lobby door, the guards released her. She hit the sidewalk on her hands and knees. Her laptop skidded out of her backpack across the pavement. Both kneecaps split and bleeding. The marble had peeled the skin clean. Gregory appeared in the doorway. He pulled a $100 bill from his pocket, folded it once, and dropped it. It landed on the small puddle of blood forming beneath her right knee. "Buy yourself some shoes," he said, "and some dignity. That's more than you're worth." He turned and walked back to his party. The glass door closed. The jazz music resumed. Behind Gregory, still inside the lobby, Victor Caldwell stood watching. His eyes had followed the entire scene. When Brianna hit the sidewalk, something shifted in his expression. Not concern, not guilt. Relief. His lips pressed together, and his eyes narrowed just slightly, the way a man looks when an unexpected problem solves itself. She was gone. Whatever she knew, she was gone. He was wrong. On the sidewalk, Brianna sat with her back against the building's granite wall. Blood ran down both shins. Her laptop screen was cracked worse now, a spider web of white lines across the display. But the cursor still blinked, still alive, like her. She pressed her palms flat on the concrete, felt the cold, felt the ground, the way her mother taught her. When everything shakes, feel what's still solid. Her hand went to her chest, the silver lock necklace. Her father's voice, quiet and certain, the way it always sounded in her memory. Every locked door is just a question nobody's answered yet. She stood up, wiped the blood off her knees with the sleeve of her hoodie, picked up her laptop, put it back in the bag. She didn't walk away. She walked around. East side of the building, a maintenance entrance behind the loading dock, the same door she had used 14 nights in a row. She knew the code. She knew the camera rotation. She was inside in 30 seconds. Down the service corridor, into the freight elevator, down to the technical room on sublevel 1 where she had tapped into the building's security network 2 weeks ago. Her access was still live. She pulled up the camera feeds. 40th floor, the gala. Gregory was back at the center of the room, laughing, shaking hands, the Chateau Margaux in his grip. She watched him raise it to his lips. Drink. Her stomach dropped. She opened the encrypted channel she had been monitoring for 2 weeks. A new message, sent 11 minutes ago from a burner account she had traced to Victor Caldwell's personal device. Phase 3 confirmed. Clock is running. Brianna pulled up the toxicology file she had built. Sodium fluoroacetate. Onset, 30 to 120 minutes. Lethal mechanism, metabolic disruption, calcium depletion, cardiac arrest. Antidote window, 60 minutes after first symptoms. After that, organ failure. Gregory had taken his first sip at approximately 9:05 p.m. It was now 9:31 p.m. She did the math. Best case, she had until 10:35. Worst case, 10:05. She reached for her phone, dialed Sullivan. It's happening. Tonight. Right now. He drank the wine 26 minutes ago. Get your team to Ashton Sterling. I'm going back in. Sullivan's voice was sharp. Brianna, wait for us. Do not. She hung up. Pulled the 2 vials of calcium gluconate from her jacket. Checked them. Grabbed her bag. 40 floors between her and a dying man. No elevator access to the gala level. Security protocol during events. Just the emergency stairwell. 40 flights. Bare feet on concrete steps. A cracked laptop on her back and 2 glass vials in her pocket that meant the difference between life and death. She started running. Yo, she got dragged across marble, knees bleeding, and this man literally threw cash on her blood. You know what she did? Got up, went back inside, to save him. I'm sorry, but that's not normal human behavior. That's something else entirely. And trust me, what comes next? Absolutely unhinged. 40th floor, 9:38 p.m. Gregory Ashton was telling a story about the early days, the cold apartment, the dock shifts, the first investor who believed in 2 broke kids from South Boston. The crowd loved it. They always did. Mid-sentence he paused, wiped his forehead with the back of his hand. His fingers were trembling, just slightly, just enough that he noticed and no one else did. He blamed the wine, took another sip. By 9:44, the trembling had spread to both hands. Sweat darkened the collar of his shirt. His vision blurred at the edges, then sharpened, then blurred again. He set the glass down carefully, as though it might shatter if he gripped it any harder. Victor appeared at his side. You okay, old friend? His voice was warm. His eyes were steady, not a trace of worry in them. Fine, Gregory said. Just need some air. He didn't get air. At 9:51, his left knee buckled. He caught himself on the back of a chair. 2 guests reached for him. He waved them off. I'm fine, just stood up too fast. He wasn't fine. Sodium fluoroacetate was doing exactly what it was designed to do, converting inside his cells into fluorocitrate, blocking the Krebs cycle, draining calcium from his blood 1 molecule at a time. His heart was starting to stutter, his muscles were beginning to cramp, and the man standing next to him with the concerned expression in the silver cufflink already knew exactly how this would end. 20 floors below, Brianna was climbing. Her lungs burned. Her calves screamed. The concrete steps tore at the skin on the balls of her feet with every stride. Floor 18, 19, 20. The stairwell was narrow, lit by flickering emergency strips that turned her shadow into something jagged and desperate. She could feel the vials in her jacket pocket. 2 small glass tubes bouncing against her ribs with every step. Calcium gluconate. If she got there in time, it would stabilize his heart. Buy him an hour, maybe 2. Enough to get him to a hospital. If she didn't get there in time, it was a glass paperweight. Floor 30, 31. Her legs were failing. She grabbed the railing, pulled herself up 3 steps at a time. Blood from her knees left smears on every landing. Floor 40. She hit the stairwell door with both hands. It banged open into the service hallway behind the ballroom. She could hear the jazz. She could hear the laughter. She ran toward it. Dennis Crawford saw her first. You have got to be... He's been poisoned. Brianna's voice was raw, torn apart by 40 flights of stairs, but every word was exact. Sodium fluoroacetate. It's in his Chateau Margaux. He has maybe 30 minutes before cardiac arrest. You can stop me, or you can watch your boss die on camera. Choose now. Dennis froze. Not because he believed her, because the woman standing in front of him, barefoot, bleeding, panting, spoke with the precision of someone who had never been wrong about anything in her life. Before he could choose, a scream cut through the ballroom. Gregory was down. He had collapsed beside the head table, His body convulsed once, twice. Sweat pooled on the marble beneath him. Guests scattered backward. Someone knocked over a champagne tower. Glass shattered across the floor like ice breaking. Victor rushed to Gregory's side, dropped to his knees, grabbed Gregory's hand. "Greg, somebody call an ambulance." His voice cracked with panic. Perfect panic. Rehearsed panic. Brianna pushed past Dennis, pushed through the crowd, dropped to her knees beside Gregory, the same knees she had bled on this marble an hour ago. She unzipped her backpack, pulled out a vial and a syringe. Her hands were steady, completely steady. The hands of a girl who had learned to find veins by flashlight in a farmhouse kitchen while her mother talked her through it. 12 years old, a neighbor with a diabetic seizure. No ambulance for 40 minutes. You learn, or someone dies. She found the vein, inserted the needle, pushed the calcium gluconate slow and even. Gregory's convulsions eased. His breathing roughened, then steadied. His eyes fluttered open. The room was silent. 500 people holding their breath. Brianna looked up from Gregory's arm. Across the circle of frozen guests, standing directly opposite her, was Victor Caldwell. Their eyes met, and for the first time in 3 years of planning, Victor's face showed something he could not rehearse: fear. Victor moved fast, faster than grief, faster than concern. Before the echo of Gregory's collapse had faded from the room, Victor already had his phone to his ear. Full lockdown. Now. Nobody in, nobody out. He turned to the crowd, palms raised, voice projecting the calm authority of a man who had spent 30 years being trusted. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain where you are. There has been an attempt on Mr. Ashton's life. For your safety, we are sealing the building until law enforcement arrives. No one leaves this floor." It sounded reasonable. It sounded responsible. 500 people nodded, grateful that someone was in charge. Within 90 seconds, every elevator in the building went dark. Emergency stairwell doors snapped shut, magnetic locks engaged by the security command center on the 3rd floor, manned by a team that answered to Victor, not Gregory. Cell signals dropped to nothing. A jammer, installed in the technical room on the 15th floor 3 weeks ago, disguised as a network booster, killed every frequency in the building. 40 stories of glass and steel, sealed, silent. A cage dressed up as a skyscraper. And the man who built the cage was kneeling beside his best friend, holding his hand, whispering, "Stay with me, Greg. Help is coming." Help was not coming. That was the point. Calcium gluconate had stabilized Gregory's heart, temporarily. But sodium fluoroacetate was still circulating. Without hospital-grade treatment within the next 60 minutes, the poison would finish what it started. Victor didn't need to do anything else. He just needed time. Brianna understood all of this in the space of 3 breaths. She saw the elevators go dark. She felt her phone lose signal. She watched Victor's mouth move as he gave orders to Dennis Crawford. And she watched Dennis nod without hesitation. The obedience of a man who had never been paid to think. She did the math. Lockdown meant no ambulance could enter. No signal meant no call to Sullivan. Gregory was alive but deteriorating. And the only person in this building who knew what was really happening was a barefoot black girl that every guard had been told to detain. Victor turned toward her. His voice shifted. No longer the grieving friend. Something colder, something final. "This woman broke into our building tonight. She may be connected to whatever just happened. Security, hold her." 3 guards stepped forward. Brianna had 4 seconds. She used them. She dropped beside Gregory. His eyes were open but glassy, unfocused, swimming in the aftermath of the seizure. His breathing was shallow. His skin was the color of wet paper. She put her lips close to his ear. Close enough that no one else could hear. And she whispered, "The man who poisoned you is standing 10 feet away. He locked this building to make sure you die tonight. The shot I gave you is temporary. You have less than an hour. If you want to live, stay quiet. Follow me." Gregory's eyes focused. For the first time since his collapse, something sharper than pain moved behind them. He looked at her. This girl, this barefoot girl he had dragged across his marble floor and thrown money at like she was nothing. Her knees were still bleeding. Her hoodie was torn, her laptop was cracked, and she had just saved his life. He didn't understand. He didn't need to. He nodded. Brianna helped him to his feet. He leaned on her hard, most of his weight on her left shoulder. She turned toward the nearest hallway, moving like someone who needed a bathroom, not an escape route. "Hey, stop!" A guard lunged forward. "He needs to throw up," Brianna said without turning around. "Unless you want him vomiting on a senator's shoes." The guard hesitated. Gregory did look like he was about to be sick. The guard stepped back. They reached the hallway. Brianna turned left past the restrooms, past the service closet, to a maintenance door marked Authorized Personnel Only. She had memorized this door 2 weeks ago. She had memorized every door. Inside, a narrow corridor, exposed pipes, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. She guided Gregory through, his shoes dragging on the concrete, his breathing ragged against her neck. "Where?" he started. "Don't talk. Save your energy. I know this building better than anyone alive." She opened a ceiling panel at the end of the corridor. Above it, the service shaft that ran the full height of the building. Ladder rungs bolted to the inside wall. Maintenance access. No cameras, no magnetic locks. The kind of infrastructure that building management forgot existed and Brianna had mapped in the dark. "We're going down," she said. 40 floors. Can you hold on?" Gregory looked at the shaft, looked at her. A CEO in a $5,000 suit staring into a concrete tube that smelled like rust and dust and decades of neglect. "Do I have a choice?" "No." He grabbed the first rung. His arms shook. Brianna climbed below him, guiding his feet to each step, one floor at a time, in the dark, in silence. The only sounds, his labored breathing, the scrape of his shoes on metal, and the soft press of her bare feet finding each rung without hesitation. Above them, on the 40th floor, Victor Caldwell was realizing something was wrong. "Where is he?" Victor's voice sliced through the ballroom murmur. Dennis Crawford checked the restrooms, the hallways, the service closet. Empty. "They're gone, sir." Victor's jaw tightened. The smile, the warmth, the 30 years of performed loyalty, all of it fell away in a single breath. What remained was something raw, something that had been hiding behind the cufflink and the handshake and the toast for a very long time. "Find them. Every floor, every stairwell, every closet. Bring 6 men. Start from the top." Dennis hesitated for the first time that night. "Sir, shouldn't we wait for—" "Now." 6 guards spread through the building, flashlights cutting through dark hallways, boots echoing in stairwells, doors slamming open. A hunt, floor by floor moving downward. In the service shaft, somewhere around the 28th floor, Gregory heard the boots above them. Faint but unmistakable, the rhythm of men searching. He looked down at Brianna. She pressed one finger to her lips. "Stay quiet." He stayed quiet, and they kept descending into the dark. Floor 28. The service shaft opened into a mechanical room, a maze of pipes and electrical panels behind a steel fire door. Brianna pushed it open, checked the corridor, and pulled Gregory through. The door ahead was sealed, electronic keypad, red light. Gregory leaned against the wall, chest heaving. "It's locked. We need another—" Brianna was already on her laptop. She set it on the floor, cracked screen glowing in the dark, fingers moving across the keyboard with the kind of speed that didn't come from practice. It came from instinct. 40 seconds. The keypad beeped. Green light. Gregory stared at her. "Who the hell are you?" She didn't look up, just pushed the door open. "Someone you should have listened to." They moved through, down a fire escape corridor, past a row of darkened offices on the 25th floor. Brianna navigated without pausing, without checking signs. She turned left, then right, then left again, each step certain, each decision instant. She had walked these halls in the dark 14 times before tonight. She knew where every camera pointed. She knew the blind spots the way most people know the layout of their own kitchen. Floor 19. Footsteps above them. Close. 2 sets of boots coming down the east stairwell, the same stairwell they were heading toward. Brianna grabbed Gregory's arm and pulled him into a pitch-black electrical room. She eased the door shut without a sound, pressed her back against the wall, put her hand flat on Gregory's chest, partly to steady him, partly to feel his heartbeat. It was irregular, skipping. The calcium gluconate was losing its grip. The boots passed, 1 floor above, then on their floor. Flashlight beams swept under the door, a thin white line that crawled across Brianna's bare toes and disappeared. She counted. 4 seconds between each sweep. The guards were moving fast, checking doors but not opening them. Sloppy. They were looking for a CEO. They expected noise, panic, someone calling for help. They weren't expecting silence. The boots faded down the hall. Brianna waited an extra 30 seconds. Then she moved. Floor 12. Another fire door. Another keypad. Brianna cracked it in under a minute. But when she pushed through, Gregory didn't follow. He was on the ground, back against the wall, both hands pressed to his sternum. His face was gray. Sweat ran down his temples in thin lines. His breath came in shallow, rapid bursts, like a man trying to sip air through a straw. "Can't breathe." Brianna was beside him in a second. She pulled the second vial of calcium gluconate from her jacket, the last one. She uncapped the syringe, found the vein in his forearm, The same steady hands, the same calm focus. The way her mother had taught her. A farmhouse kitchen in Alabama. A neighbor seizing on the floor. No ambulance, no doctor. Just a 12-year-old girl and a woman who said, "Steady now, you find the vein. You push slow. You don't panic. Panicking is for people who don't know what to do." Brianna pushed slow. Gregory's breathing eased. His color shifted from gray to pale. Not good, but alive. He looked at her hands, then at her face. The question came out barely above a whisper. "Where did you learn to do that?" "My mama was a nurse in Alabama. She taught me to save lives before I learned to read code." Something broke open behind Gregory's eyes. Not understanding, not yet, but the beginning of it. The first fracture in the wall he had built between people like him and people like her. He looked down at her knees. The blood had dried into dark crusts. The marble had taken skin that would never grow back the same. "I did that to you." "Yes, you did." Silence. Just their breathing and the hum of electrical panels. "Why are you saving me?" Brianna looked at him, not with anger, not with pity, with something worse. Clarity. "Because I wasn't raised to let people die just because they hurt me." She stood, offered her hand. He took it. The first time in his life that Gregory Ashton had reached up to someone instead of down. "We're halfway there," she said, "and I still have something to show you." Somewhere above them, boots were getting closer. Floor 8, service stairwell. Brianna eased the door open and froze. 2 guards stood in the hallway, 15 feet away, flashlights in hand. One was mid-sentence on his earpiece. "Floors 10 through 15 clear, moving to—" He saw her. 1 full second of nothing. The flashlight beam drifted from Brianna's face to her bare feet to the man slumped against her shoulder in a sweat-soaked suit. Brianna slammed the door, grabbed Gregory, pulled him back up half a flight, and threw a fire exit into the 8th floor mechanical corridor. Behind them, the stairwell door banged open. "Contact! Floor 8, east stairwell!" Victor's voice came through the radio like a whip. "Block every exit below floor 5. Drive them back up." Brianna heard it. She had hacked the security frequency 2 weeks ago and tuned her phone scanner to it before the jammer killed cell signals. Short range still worked. Victor wanted them to go up. That told her everything. She went down. Through the mechanical corridor, past rows of humming air handlers the size of small cars. A deep industrial roar that swallowed their footsteps and breathing and every sound that might give them away. At the end of the corridor, a steel hatch in the floor. Industrial waste chute. A vertical shaft from the 8th floor to subbasement B2. Maintenance ladder inside. No cameras, no locks. It existed in the building's original 1971 blueprints and had been forgotten by every renovation since. Brianna had found it on night 4. She pulled the hatch open. Stale air rose from below. Cold, metallic, smelling of concrete dust and rust. Gregory looked down, then at Brianna. "You can't be serious." "You can take the elevator if you'd prefer." "Oh wait, your best friend locked it." Gregory grabbed the first rung. 8 floors of vertical darkness. His arms trembled with every step. His leather shoes slipped on the metal. Twice Brianna braced his foot with her shoulder from below. Her bare feet gripped the rungs better than his $1,000 Oxfords. Calluses built on Alabama dirt held firm where Italian leather failed. Above them, boots on the 8th floor. Flashlight beams swept the HVAC room. But the roar of the air handlers ate the sound, and no one thought to check the hatch. No one checks the thing they've forgotten exists. Subbasement B2. Brianna dropped onto cold concrete, caught Gregory as he stumbled off behind her. The air was heavy, still, carrying the hum of dormant systems and the silence of a place that hadn't heard a voice in years. She led him through a narrow corridor, exposed pipes, water stains, emergency lighting, just enough to see shapes. Gregory walked with one hand on the wall, the other on his chest. The second dose was holding, but the gaps between his inhales were getting longer. Then she stopped. A steel door, industrial gray, no window, a faintly glowing keypad. Gregory leaned against the wall. "The exit is the other way." "It is." "Then why are we stopping?" "Before we leave this building, you need to see why this is happening to you." "I've been poisoned. I need a hospital." "You need the truth more, because if you walk out without it, the man who did this walks free. And next time, I won't be there." Silence, just water dripping somewhere behind the walls. "The person who poisoned you tonight wasn't a stranger, wasn't a rival. It was the person you trust most in this world, and everything is behind this door." She typed the code. The lock disengaged with a heavy mechanical thunk. She pushed the door open. Blue light spilled into the hallway like something alive. 12 by 15 feet. Concrete walls. 3 salvaged monitors on stacked server racks. Brianna's laptop at the center, connected by a tangle of cables. 14 nights of work. Monitors carried down one at a time. Power tapped from an adjacent junction box. Not pretty, but complete. She tapped the laptop. The screens woke. Monitor 1. 12 shell companies mapped in green lines on black. Cayman Islands, Panama, Cyprus. $340 million splitting and merging through each entity. And at the end of every branch, one name. Victor Caldwell. Not Gregory Ashton. Victor Caldwell. Gregory stepped closer. His reflection floated on the screen like a ghost over the evidence of his own destruction. Monitor 2. Decrypted emails between Victor and a fixer in Zurich. Wire instructions, forged signatures, and one message sent 3 weeks ago. He still wears my cufflink. Sentimental fool. After tonight, everything he built becomes mine. Gregory's hand moved to his left wrist. The silver cufflink, cool against his skin. 30 years, every single day. He touched it now the way a man touches a wound he didn't know he had. Monitor 3. Video. Surveillance footage from the building's insurance cloud backup, a system Victor didn't know existed. Timestamp, 6:02 p.m. The wine cellar. Victor Caldwell, alone, holding a small vial over the Chateau Margaux 1995. Steady hands, calm face. The silver cufflink catching the light. He tilted the vial. The liquid disappeared into the wine. He corked the bottle, straightened his tie, walked out. Gregory's legs gave. Not a stumble, a collapse. Slow, total, as if every tendon had been cut at once. His knees hit concrete with a sound Brianna would remember forever. The same dull crack her own knees had made on the marble 40 floors above. His hands hung at his sides. His mouth moved twice without sound. The third attempt found a word. Vic. Then another. We were brothers. The monitors kept glowing. The evidence didn't care about brotherhood or cufflinks or packs or cold apartments in South Boston. It sat there, blue and patient, waiting for the world to catch up with what it already knew. Brianna stood behind him. She didn't touch him, didn't comfort him. She let the screens do what screens do, show what happened, without mercy, without editorials, without the kind lies friends tell for 30 years. 2 minutes passed. Then Brianna put her hand on his shoulder. Gently, the way her mother touched patients who had just received the worst news of their lives. We need to go. The poison is still in your blood. Gregory looked up. His face was wet. He looked like a man who had aged 10 years in 3 minutes. I threw you out. I threw you out and you came back and saved. I know what I did. Can you stand? He could. Barely. She pulled him up, led him down the corridor to the far end of B2, a fire exit with a mechanical push-bar door. It predated the electronic system by 3 decades. Victor couldn't lock it because it wasn't connected to anything he controlled. Brianna had confirmed this on night 1. She hit the bar. Cold night air poured in. The alley behind the building, dumpsters, steam rising from a grate, distant traffic. And standing in the alley, lit by the blue and red pulse of 3 FBI vehicles, Howard Sullivan. He looked at her bare feet, her bleeding knees, the cracked laptop. The CEO of a $30 billion company leaning on her shoulder like a child. Agent Wallace, you look like hell. I've had worse nights. Sullivan nodded to the paramedics. They moved in, eased Gregory onto a stretcher. IV line, oxygen mask. Sirens split the night. Brianna pulled a flash drive from her pocket. Everything, still running on screens downstairs. Room B2-14. Doors open. Sullivan took it. The NSA still has your desk, you know. They can keep it. Sullivan turned to his team. All units, go. Every entrance, 40th floor, Victor Caldwell, white male, 56, silver cufflinks. 12 agents moved toward the building like a wave. 40th floor, 11:14 p.m. Victor Caldwell sat in Gregory's chair, behind Gregory's desk, in the private office overlooking Manhattan that he had stared at for 30 years from the other side of the glass. He had poured himself a glass of champagne. The gala guests had been moved to the conference hall, confused, whispering, waiting. Victor had told them Gregory was being treated, that everything was under control, that he was handling it. He believed it. The lockdown was holding, no signals in or out. Gregory was somewhere in the building, getting weaker by the minute. By morning, the poison would finish its work, the forged evidence would surface, and the world would mourn a CEO who killed himself rather than face a money laundering indictment. Victor took a sip, leaned back in the chair, tested how it felt. It felt like 30 years of waiting. The elevator chimed. Victor looked up. The elevator doors opened. Howard Sullivan stepped out first. Badge in one hand, warrant in the other. Behind him, 6 FBI agents in tactical vests. Behind them, Brianna Wallace, barefoot, bleeding, standing. Victor's champagne glass stopped halfway to his lips. Victor Caldwell. Sullivan's voice filled the room like a verdict. You're under arrest for attempted murder, wire fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy. Stand up. Victor didn't stand. He stared at Brianna, the girl from the lobby, the creature on the marble, the bare feet and the cracked laptop and the torn hoodie. She had walked into his building twice tonight. The first time he had watched her get dragged out like garbage. Now she was walking in behind the FBI. A barefoot nobody, Victor said. His voice was quiet, almost admiring, almost broken. You let a barefoot nobody destroy everything. Brianna looked at him the way she had looked at every locked door she had ever opened, with patience and without fear. I'm the nobody who saw through you when nobody else could. Sullivan's agents moved forward, hands behind Victor's back, cuffs clicked shut. As they pulled him to his feet, the silver cufflink slipped from his wrist. It hit the marble floor with a small, bright sound, almost musical, and rolled in a slow arc across the white stone. It stopped at Brianna's bare feet. She looked down at it. 30 years of brotherhood. 30 years of lies. A small silver circle on cold marble, resting against skin that was still bleeding from being dragged across this same floor. She didn't pick it up. The trial lasted 11 days. Victor Caldwell faced 14 federal charges: attempted murder, embezzlement, wire fraud, money laundering, forgery, false imprisonment. His defense attorney argued temporary insanity. 30 years of being overlooked, undervalued, invisible. The shadow behind the throne. The jury didn't buy it. The forged signatures alone would have been enough. The shell companies would have sealed it. But it was the video that ended Victor Caldwell. 43 seconds of surveillance footage. A man in a tailored suit standing alone in a wine cellar, pouring poison into his best friend's bottle. Steady hands, calm face, silver cufflink catching the light. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all 14 counts. Sentencing, 52 years, no parole. When the verdict was read, Victor stood motionless. He didn't look at the judge, didn't look at his lawyer. He looked across the courtroom at Gregory Ashton, who sat in the third row with both hands folded in his lap. Victor's last words before they let him away? I built that company too. Nobody remembered. The judge responded. The court will remember you differently, Mr. Caldwell. 7 co-conspirators were arrested in the weeks that followed. The head of building security, 4 guards who had participated in the lockdown, the IT director who installed the signal jammer, the chief accountant who created the shell companies. $340 million, frozen, traced, and returned to Ashton's Sterling Group within 90 days. The story broke on a Tuesday morning. By Wednesday, it was everywhere. CNN ran it first, then The Times, then every network and podcast and social media platform in the country. The footage of Brianna being dragged across the marble, pulled from the galla's own security cameras, was viewed 48 million times in 72 hours. The image of her bare feet on concrete became a symbol before anyone decided it should be. The hashtag wrote itself, #BarefootHero. It trended #1 for 3 days. Then it became something more, a shorthand for every person who had ever been dismissed on sight and proven extraordinary in silence. The NSA offered Brianna her old position. She declined. The FBI offered a permanent consultancy. She said she'd think about it. 14 tech companies offered 7-figure contracts. She didn't return the calls. Gregory Ashton held a press conference 9 days after the verdict. He stood at a podium, thinner, older, a man still healing from poison and something worse than poison. He did not read from notes. I dragged a woman across my floor because she didn't look like she belonged. She came back and saved my life. I have no words for that. I only have actions. He announced the creation of the Wallace Foundation, a $50 million fund for young Black Americans pursuing careers in technology and cybersecurity. Named not for a building or a brand, named for the woman he had thrown a $100 bill at and told to buy some dignity. Brianna was not at the press conference. She had not given a single interview. She posted one line on social media that afternoon and then went quiet. My father taught me that every locked door is just a question. Tonight, I answered one. Dennis Crawford, the security chief who had dragged Brianna across the marble on Gregory's order, found her 3 weeks later at a coffee shop in Brooklyn. He sat across from her and said nothing for a long time. Then he apologized. Brianna shook his hand. You were following orders, she said. But next time, follow your gut. That evening, Brianna walked home alone. Brooklyn, in early autumn, streetlights humming, leaves on the sidewalk. She climbed the stairs to her studio apartment, set her backpack on the floor, placed the cracked laptop on the desk, the same laptop that had survived a marble floor, a concrete stairwell, and a waste chute. She sat in the old chair by the window, bare feet on cold wood. Manhattan glowed across the river. The Ashton Sterling building stood against the skyline, lit from within. It looked the same as it always had, but it wasn't. Her hand found the silver necklace, the little lock warm against her chest. She held it between her fingers and smiled. 500 people watched Brianna Wallace get dragged across a marble floor. Not one of them moved. Not one of them spoke. 500 of the most powerful people in American finance, and every single one of them looked at a barefoot black girl and saw nothing worth saving. She saved the man who humiliated her. She carried him through 40 floors of darkness. She showed him the truth that would have buried him. And then she walked home to a studio apartment in Brooklyn and sat in a chair by the window with bare feet on cold wood. No press tour, no book deal, no victory lap. Just a cracked laptop and a silver necklace and the quiet knowledge that she had done what needed to be done. The world is full of Brianna Wallaces. Brilliant people standing in rooms where no one will listen because of the color of their skin, the shoes they're not wearing, the address they come from. People who carry the answer in their hands and get thrown out before they can speak. Gregory Ashton almost died because he couldn't see past bare feet. Victor Caldwell almost won because everyone trusted the man in the suit. And the only person who saw the truth, the only person who could stop it, was the one person nobody believed was worth hearing. That's not just a story, that's a mirror. Look, I'm not gonna lie, this one messed me up. She got dragged across a floor, bled on marble, and went back in to save the same man who did it. Barefoot, no cape, no applause, just raw, insane courage that the world almost missed because of her skin and her shoes. That's the part that keeps me up at night. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment. Have you ever been judged before you had the chance to prove who you really are? Subscribe, hit the bell. The next story might be yours. Hashtag Barefoot Hero, hashtag Brianna Wallace, hashtag Justice Served, hashtag Never Judge, hashtag True Strength, hashtag Stay Quiet, Follow Me.